Welcome. Today we are reviewing and discussing the Patriot Pen Turner Bespoke Resin Pen. So this thing is awesome. This was a pen that was donated for review from Brownie, and this is a relatively newer maker on the market. They're working in a nice resin. Now, when we say resin, a lot of pens are made with resins. When I say a resin pen, usually I'm referring to one like this that has a lot of beauty, depth, and different colors, and usually some sort of shimmer in the resin. So the resin itself is a sight to behold. This thing is gorgeous. Let me kind of zoom in here. So you can see all of the wonderful colors. We've got white to gold to purple to black. And I didn't even think I would like a purple pen, but this is just purple enough that I actually like it. This is very regal. This thing is a sight to behold, and that pattern continues underneath the hood too. So you've got that nice kind of concave grip there, and that also continues that same resin. At this price range, about 160 or so, you're looking at other things kind of like River City pens, and that's what these two are. These two are also resins. And at this price point, you are looking at a really, really super nice body with a decent nib, like a steel nib usually. Usually these type of pens go all in on the body, especially with these smaller makers, because these resins are very expensive. These two are like a Bob Dupross resin. Most pens that have that type of resin or from that creator, they cost like twice as much as these. So that's kind of what we're seeing here too. So a beautiful, beautiful body. It came with a Bach nib. I'm going to have to pause to discuss this at this point. So the original nib that came with this one did not write well for me. It would write under pressure, but it would not write under its own weight as a fountain pen that's properly tuned should. So I contacted Brownie. He suggested a feed mod. I said, if we do this, I'm all in. I'll cover the cost if anything goes awry and record it. So I did record it, so leave a like or a comment and I can post that if anybody's interested, the feed mod. But anyway, I did the feed mod and it did not help. At that point, I realized it was the tines were contacting in the original nib. So a proper nib should have their tines aligned so that the ink can flow down that slit, but they don't actually touch. When they touch like this, the ink doesn't want to flow all the way down, and that's what was happening to me. Now, the actual nib that comes on this is very nice in that it's a steel but gold-plated nib, which is a nice addition, and they got a really nice one too. The maker went all out on this price point nib, you can see. It's a very nice nib itself, just mine was not properly tuned. Now that said, this is not the maker's fault, okay? 100%, I do not blame the maker for this at all. It's just like if you were to buy a new Ford or Toyota and the tires are, have a recall or are defective, that's not Toyota or Ford's fault, that is Dunlop or Bridgestone's fault. So this is not a fault of the maker, this is a fault of Bach. When they ordered the nibs, somehow this one slipped through quality control. So normally on a donor pen, I would never ever disassemble it. However, since I'd already talked to Brownie about this issue and I was already deep into modding this thing, I was like, the nib's already been off, I'm gonna just throw a new nib on. So that's what I did. I had a spare nib laying around and I went ahead and threw on a fine nib so that I could continue to review this pen. So now that this thing is a properly, tuned nib on here, this thing is gorgeous. This is a giant, massive, stately pen. This thing makes me feel like I am a king signing some sort of treatise or treaty with another country's royals. You know what I mean? Like this thing. This thing is awesome. So this is a beautiful pen. I love the oversizedness. The balance comes right about 55 to 60%, which makes it wonderful for embellishments, right? When you're writing, even here, I went with double line. So when you're writing and you have those, those big embellishments like you would on a, Y or G or something like that, this thing just wants to like float away, and it really helps with your embellishments, and it helps with that kind of stately, kingly presence of this. This thing is oversized, okay, guys? Let me show you how much. Like barely, I can't even get my finger in there. So it's got a lot of size to this thing. And as oversized as it is, it's also oversized in character. Like I said, this thing is massive and it makes me feel like a king when I'm using it. Look at just the size of the cap. The cap itself goes to right about the midpoint of the body. That's how massive this thing really is. And I must say too, that the pen had no residual resin filings in it, which both of my River City pens had residual filings from the resin, the actual spinning process. They didn't even, take a can of compressed air to it to clean out. This one was nice and clean on the interior. On the interior, let's keep going there. Nice converters included. I've been working this one a lot, so I've just kind of got the ink that I need in there. I'm using Manyo Kanagi as always on my tester pens here. And this thing is a pleasure to write with. I've been using this over the last week or two with my journals and different writing tasks when I can, and I really do enjoy it. I really enjoy the size, the feel, and I could easily recommend this brand, especially at this price point, a little bit underneath the other two that I had mentioned, the River Cities. I could definitely say I'm comfortable ordering a pen from this gentleman. Again, that's Patriot Pen Turner. It's a smaller venture, like we said. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the finer details. Again, I really like how this part is concave. It really helps and assists with your grip there. I just like kind of that indexed handhold. This one does have more threads comparatively to the River City pens. However, it's about the same turns. So I'll show you an example. So here we have the threading on the River City. This is the threading on the Patriot Pen Turner. And you can see that there's definitely more threads here. Like I said, it's about 4 turns here. One I've already counted, but it's 4 turns on these ones, and this one was about 4 1/4 turns. So you're not turning it really much more at all. A quarter turn is nothing in the scheme of these things. However, these extra threads does help make this a little tiny bit more airtight. One tiny thing I noticed though, I'm going to zoom way in for this. So if you noticed here, as I was feeling it, I was like, oh, it's cool. It's really concave. So like right there, you can see that it is concave. It does like kind of meet, and there's really no, you can feel that tiny little divot, but there's no ridges or bumps. But then when you spin it around, you can see up here, I can feel that ridge there. The ends are not flat. They're just a little bit conical there. And I really do appreciate that over the flat end. I think this is nicer to look at, it's nicer to feel, and personally I just think it adds a little bit more flair. The resin, as you can tell, it was milled from one solid piece, so this is one solid piece of resin, so the ends do continue that pattern, which is very nice. Time for some size comparisons. So this is a clipless pen, so I added something so it doesn't roll away on me. Here it is compared to, that's in the nook there so it doesn't roll. Here it is compared to a River City pen. And I'm going to line up the backs here. So you can see that this one is definitely longer, oversized as typical. Here's another River City smaller, different model. Backs are lined up. Again, you can see oversized pen comes in oversized. These are going to roll, so I'm going to get these out of the way. Next up, we have what could be considered a larger girth, almost bordering on oversized, but not really pen. This is the 743. And again, I'm going to line up those. All right, so again, you see very much longer and more oversized there. Let's look at a Platinum 3776. So we're going to line up the back again. Definitely the oversized pen wins. All right, so if you're a betting person, you know where you're betting on for the size comparisons. Here's a vanishing point. Conclusions. So now we're going to talk about how much I actually enjoyed this pen. And I really did enjoy this pen. I don't have a pen this size, and as I said, it makes me feel like some sort of stately gentleman signing some very important documents, right? This is not a small pen. I loved the resin. This was a very beautiful, beautiful resin with a lot of depth, a lot of color. I loved the feel of it, the balance of it, made it great for embellishments, which again goes back to that making me feel like a king signing some sort of treaty feel. The nib is what it is. It was not a fault of the maker. That was a Bach issue on quality control. So I definitely would have no hesitation purchasing something from this maker. Especially at this price point, this undercuts the River City pens by a little bit too. And for this quality, what you're getting with the resin, I do appreciate those extra threads because it didn't add really anything much in terms of rotations of the cap, but it does make it that much more secure as far as being airtight goes. The converter is plenty big enough. I'm not worried about that. I like the fact that it comes with a converter, obviously. And I really enjoy the conical grip here, that kind of concave that kind of lets your fingers index where you will. And there is more space to index on this one comparatively. So here we see it compared to similarly priced competitors. You can see the length difference, the girth difference, and the handhold difference. So look at the amount of room that you have over here to align your fingers anywhere you want comparatively over here or here is much less. So this thing gives you a ton of room to actually go ahead and find your perfect grip on there. The stock nibs too, I must commend, even though mine had issues. So if you look at the stock nib it came with, if it was tuned properly from Bach versus the River City pens, objectively, the Bach one on the Patriot pen is nicer. It is gold plated and it has that beautiful engraving of kind of the mountain goat on there, as opposed to these just have some scroll work. So objectively, the nib that comes with the Patriot pen is a nicer nib than the similarly priced competitors. I did really appreciate having this pen. It was an excellent, magnificent journaling machine. I loved the embellishments from the weightiness and the girth, and that balancing point being just above 50%. That really helps with your embellishments and your writing. I enjoy the extra threads. I enjoy, definitely, this resin is gorgeous beyond belief. And I appreciate how the maker reached out, eager for a review, learning on how they could improve this product. I would have absolutely no problems whatsoever recommending one of these pens, a Patriot Pen Turner. This is an awesome pen, especially at this price point. This has a lot of things going for it. The resin, the massive oversized girth, the wonderful conical grip up here, and a gold-plated steel nib from Bach, which is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much to Brownie for donating this, and thank you to the maker who reached out looking for feedback to improve in the future. I hope to have another one of your creations in my hand soon.